Hi, welcome everyone. Today we're going to show you a car that you probably won't see in showrooms in Poland or on the roads in Poland either. If you see one, it's usually from the States, but this isn't because it has a diesel engine. I won't share more details, maybe just a brief history. It was, of course, created with the United States in mind, where it was meant to compete with the big American SUVs. And actually, Americans liked it, and as for whether people in Poland or Ukraine liked it, Maciek will tell you about that. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Maciek. I work in Lviv, I live in Poznan, and this car mainly serves me to travel between these cities. So that's a route of about 700 kilometers. And today, almost by accident, we met with Zakar OFF in the beautiful city of Rzeszów, as you can see from the building, to show you something you won't find in Poland or Europe. The car, as you can see, doesn't have Polish plates, but rather European, Ukrainian plates. That's because it's not distributed in the European Union. The closest country is Ukraine, and I had the opportunity to buy it and register it in Ukraine. The cars you see in Poland, in most cases, if they have Polish plates, are imported from the United States. But this is a 3.8 gasoline engine, and this is practically one of the few, if not the only car that drives around Poland with a diesel engine. You may hear it briefly, or not at all, since it's well soundproofed. The car is from the 2023 model year, so it's 2 years old. I've driven almost 45,000 kilometers with it over these 2 years, so it's been heavily used on the road. Before this I had a Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. Actually, I still have the car because it's being used in Ukraine due to its off-road capabilities. And the roads there, let's say, are like the roads in Poland in the 90s. When the war started, I began traveling from Poznan to Lviv. The Mitsubishi is really nice for such long trips, but it's not that comfortable. I was looking for something more comfortable, and since I used to drive big cars before and now I have 2 kids and a dog, I wanted to have something really big. At first I was considering a GLS because I used to have one, but after COVID, unfortunately the prices went crazy and I decided that it's a bit too expensive for me. When I was crossing the border from Ukraine, I saw a Hyundai Palisade and got interested in this car. Inside there's a very small diesel engine, at least considering the size of the car. It's a 2.2 liter diesel, you could say a standard unit for Hyundai and Kia. From what I've read, it's about 20 years old already and it's constantly being modernized. This is the most powerful version with 200 horsepower and about 430 Nm or maybe 440 Nm. It generates enough power for driving, enough power for maximum acceleration. What I managed to do was drive this car, I don't know company, of course, it was 210 km/h. The car has all-wheel drive in the States. There are also versions with front-wheel drive only. The rear-wheel drive kicks in from 170 km/h and up. I think it's called oversteer. The front starts to slip above 170 km/h on German highways. The front starts to drift a bit up to 170 km/h. It's a really nice car. Earlier I had a GLS with pneumatic suspension, and I can say that this suspension, which is a classic one here, doesn't differ much from the pneumatic one, except that you can't raise or lower the car. As for fuel consumption, I mostly drive long distances. Fuel consumption at 120 km/h is about 8 liters per 100 km without the air conditioning on, and at around 140 km/h it's 9.3 to 9.4 liters. That's at a constant speed. Once I drove at around 90 and the fuel consumption was really just over 7 liters, but I don't remember exactly because, like I said, I mostly drive long distances. When I drive in the city, it's about 9 to 9.3 liters of diesel per 100 km. I service the car in Ukraine and the service interval is every 15,000 kilometers. I went for a service after 2,000 kilometers just for myself because I don't have that in the service book. Actually, at the Hyundai service center in Poznan, Poland, if you compare these two services, the service in Poland is definitely better when it comes to customer service. The service in Ukraine is still like Poland in the 2000s when it comes to service centers.
Dear friends, this episode's partner is AUTODNA. The simplest and cheapest way to check a car's history before buying and avoid a mishap, for literally just a few zlotys, you can be sure the car wasn't stolen, doesn't have a rolled back odometer, and wasn't in an accident. I've mentioned this before, but let me remind you, according to research, 40% of drivers had to fix issues after buying a car that resulted from its accident history, something they didn't know about. It's better to check its history. In the video description, you'll find a link to AUTODNA. I highly recommend it. And let's not buy a pig in a poke.
The car is very big inside, and it has a huge glove compartment. Here, of course, the car is cluttered. As I mentioned earlier, it just came straight from the road. I didn't have time to clean it up because Zachar and I just kind of met on the road. And we agreed that it's better to make the show, record the show, the material, than not to record it. So, a big glove compartment here, a cool sliding feature, 2 cup holders, and here is a wireless charger for your phone. I had to buy this gadget because unfortunately this version is better, which means it doesn't have wireless Android. In the worst version there's wireless Android, which is connected directly to the radio. Here there's also a compartment, and it's a really nice thing. Especially my wife likes the spot for a woman's purse, and that purse always ends up here. When we drive together, I've gotten so used to this car, I feel so comfortable here that it's kind of hard for me to talk about some super features, but yeah. Ventilated seats and heated seats, right and left side. Heated steering wheel, driver's massage. There's this cool feature, for example, when you wait a long time, like for your wife, you have to press it twice for safety reasons. There's a footrest in the front.
Also, there's a footrest for the driver.
Yeah, it's a full feature. I don't recommend driving like this because I can't reach the brakes, but generally you can do it now.
And I'm curious if here you also have to press twice so the back goes down, and look, the footrest comes out here. You can relax calmly, and now we have a bed. Good night. And the other way, 360 camera.
Fairly well synchronized. As an interesting fact, but this is in Kia and in Hyundai, there's a mirror, there's a camera instead of a mirror. My wife loves driving like that. I prefer the standard mirror. An opening roof comes standard in the 3-berth, the rear roof comes standard. Separate climate control for the rear seats. The rear seats also have ventilation, and there's even a 3rd row of seats. 3 people.
Now we'll do the 2-meter tall person test. I'm trying to lower the seat, trying to go lower, and once again trying to go lower, but nothing happens. I'm suspiciously high up. My knees, or actually my thighs, are parallel to the floor. So yes, I do fit in here, but surprisingly I have very little headroom. Considering the size of the car itself, the 2-meter tall person test is passed. However, I would prefer to be about 5 centimeters lower. Regarding the materials, aside from being nice, there isn't really anything. It's a clever cockpit because some people make all sorts of fancy 3D shapes and then there's something to grab and pull on. But here it's pretty uniform, and basically there's nothing to grab onto. Even here, look, everything is kind of hidden, built in, and because of that it doesn't creak. I'm getting onto the bench seat in the 2nd row. In general, in Palisades there can also be a 2+2+2 layout, so these can also be captain's chairs. What surprises me the most are these double cup holders in the doors. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it is. We're talking about a nice armrest that folds all the way down to the floor, and then we just click, did you hear that? And set it at the right height, so there's actually more headroom here than in the driver's seat. Yeah, I thought it would go in that direction, right in front of the knees. Well, with this size it couldn't be any other way. It's also good from what I can see. We also have the option to adjust the bench seat, and besides that we can adjust the angle of the backrest. 2, 3, and 4. So you can see my enthusiasm when it comes to the back. Now let's see what's going on in the trunk. The trunk is huge, but this is the version where we have the seats in the 3rd row folded down, and we can fold and unfold them. Here is a full set of buttons for controlling the 2nd row, and in the 3rd row there's heating in the 3rd row. Guys, this is really a car made for luxury. And now the left side, for example, click hop, and then the right one. I barely touched this button, the seat moved back, folded up, welcome inside. So let's try and see how it looks in the third row. A day like any other, which means no headroom, no legroom, no space. I mean, if you fold the seat in front of me in this position without moving it all the way back to the starting position, listen, I actually have space here, and not just squeezed in, I really have headroom. Just not really. And besides, let's move on. The saga with cup holders, because each of the two passengers here has two cup holders. And finally, let's take a look at the space that's left in the trunk after unfolding the seats. In the third row, that's 250 liters. Maybe there would be even more, my dear friends, a little correction, because I said that two people would have 4 cup holders. But actually, this is an 8-seater car, so in the back we have a third headrest and 3 people can travel in the back. One more thing to add, we don't lift the floor here, there's a big storage compartment, it's full, so I'll just tell you that this whole big long cover fits under that floor. Since none of us drives around Rzeszów on a daily basis, we're going for a 15-minute drive, which might end up taking half an hour, because we won't get back here quickly, since I have no idea where to go. We'll get stuck in some traffic jam and end up talking about this Palisade for a long time, which might be beneficial for the Palisade, but definitely not for us. Because today I still have to get to Bijam by 7 o'clock, and I also have to be in Warsaw today, and Maciek has to be in Poznan. So let's hope we find a good route.
So there won't be any traffic jams.
What else can we say about it? Right off the bat, and we won't be too wrong, it's comfortable and it floats. Just after the first few meters, I can already see that it likes to sway a bit.
Yes, the American version.
But my first question is, what are you doing in Ukraine?
I've been working in Ukraine for 7 years. In Ukraine, I'm involved in logistics, and now I go to Lviv, where I consult for a logistics company.
So I understand that this car, even though it has Ukrainian plates, only travels in Ukraine to go to the service and back. And it stays on the Polish side? Yes.
It stays on the Polish side due to long border lines, especially when returning from Ukraine. So the Mitsubishi I mentioned is parked on the Ukrainian side in Medica. And I use this one to drive to the border. Now, especially during the summer, because the trains are fully loaded since everyone is going on vacation, and in the winter I manage to catch the night train. I take the night train to Przemysl, walk from there, and a car waits for me on the other side.
You have complicated logistics. What is life like in Lviv anyway? Is it like here in Rzeszów, where nothing is really happening?
I mean, nothing is happening.
I mean, well, sometimes probably some sirens go off.
The sirens don't go off like that, but Lviv, you could say, out of all the big cities in Ukraine, is probably the safest. There are the fewest air raids and sirens. Unfortunately, they go off all over Ukraine. In Kiev, people have gotten used to it. I suspect that if a Pole went to Kyiv, they would notice some old barricades, old bunkers that are still standing from the beginning of the war, that there are air raids, and these air raids have intensified a lot in the last month.
I've always wondered what the pros and cons are of driving around Poland with Ukrainian plates. Do you notice any difference?
No, I haven't noticed. I don't see it that way. Maybe that's it. Only once did a clever gentleman approach me. When I was getting out of the car, he shouted at me, "Go back to Ukraine." Okay, well, in simple scout-like Polish words. I told him what I think about it, what I think about that. And he seemed surprised that someone answered him in pure Polish, in a well-known Polish manner, and then he just drove off. So I haven't noticed anything strange like that here. Maybe it's because it's a big black car with Ukrainian plates, so that could be the reason too. It's better not to say anything, but I don't see anything like that here, whether I'm driving other cars with Polish plates or with Ukrainian ones. I'm let in just the same. For example, when it comes to merging, I yield, they yield to me, I don't feel any difference at all. In most cars you can set the mode to either Eco, like you can see here, or Sport, or Comfort. This one has a fourth function, Smart, and depending on how you operate the gas pedal, it automatically chooses one of those modes. You can see it here, it says Smart under the tachometer. If you press the gas pedal hard, it will switch to red and then go into Sport mode.
Yes. That's true, but it runs so quietly and smoothly you can't even tell it's a diesel. Exactly, when I pressed it just now, I feel like they've been developing this engine for so many years that they've really perfected it.
That's why, as I said, it's a diesel, but it doesn't make that clack clack sound.
Oh, here we have a two-lane road, no one behind us, nothing happening in front of us. It's a 50 zone and we're going around here. Something happened, hop, hop. No, and it's soft because it leaned a little. I didn't jerk it either, but you can feel that it went into that turn very willingly. So I suppose if we had jerked it hard from the physics we just observed, the only thing that would have happened is probably a squeal, and that would be it.
I would say it has suspension that's comfortable but also springy. Yes, it's not a typical American car that just sways around. But I don't know how it's done because, like I said, I've driven on air suspension before. And here, in my opinion, it's very comparable to air suspension, even though it's just a regular standard suspension.
Are there a lot of cars like this in Ukraine?
No, in Ukraine this isn't such a popular car. The GLS is much more popular because, as I'm getting at, the situation there is...
The automotive scene is really luxurious.
Sometimes when you look at Kyiv, the number of GLSs, Range Rovers, cars like that, you won't find that many of those in Warsaw. Over there you either have a really good car or you have a bit of a worse car.
Right, there isn't a middle class like in Poland where things are more equal. There you might see a few luxury cars, but everyone has a decent vehicle to get around.
Yeah, that's how it is there.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's especially in Kyiv. You don't see it as much in Lviv and in Kyiv. The number of those cars, the ones I haven't even seen in London, that many Mercedes or Ferraris or Bentleys, yes. Rolls Royces in Kyiv, yes. I don't know how it is now during the war, but before the war, that's how it was.
They went to Poland, since whenever a fancy car passes in Warsaw,
It's got Ukrainian plates. There are normal people living there who have regular businesses. So Poles were also surprised because they thought that most of the people coming from Ukraine would arrive, well, in old cars, like Zaporozhets, yes, Zaporozhets. But it turned out that often these are people who have good cars, who can afford many things because they also run their own businesses there.
yes, and actually at first they were thinking about taking their belongings out. People who have 500,000 euros on four wheels, or at least 100,000 euros, not a Zaporozhets for $1,000.
Yes, those people could afford to leave.
So I was also in the same situation. I remember when the first wave left, it was like, oh my God, who is supposed to go to whom and ask for help now? But then yes, later I thought logically, because who is really supposed to take people and save them?
Well, those who have, well, those...
Who have. So, and that stands out, well, even more. So you can see 50 cars with Ukrainian plates without any, not standing out and just driving around. Don't you remember? And that one Rolls Royce?
Yes, I remember that.
Will you remember? You said they did it. There weren't supposed to be that many in Ukraine, but that's how it happened since I've never been there.
A very beautiful country, very nice.
I'm just asking out of curiosity too. There were definitely fewer people at Hyundai today than usual, but yeah, that's how it is. Sometimes it happens. I usually talk about how we arrange meetings with viewers, sometimes after a year, sometimes even longer. This time it went pretty quickly, I think, but logistically it was quite a puzzle. Yeah, since I was leaving Nazolina and you were coming from Lviv, we had to meet in Rzeszów. So since we have this kind of guerrilla style and logistically difficult test and we still have a long way ahead of us, let's not drag it out. I've seen photos of your other projects and I can say with full confidence that these are projects with a capital P. You didn't want to talk about them yet until they're finished, and I understand, but if you finish any of them,
I'll reach out.
then let me know, because I'll just go to Poznan to see it. Sure, you're welcome. Thank you very much for presenting this car. Congrats, good choice in my opinion. The combination of a big family comfortable car that isn't afraid of corners is exactly what you might be looking for, both for long trips and for the family.
And on top of that, when it comes to fuel consumption, it's really economical for its size.
And since it's economical, we haven't said anything about the prices. Do you buy cars cheaper in Ukraine?
Yes, in Ukraine cars are generally cheaper than in Poland, even if the base price is the same, especially cars with large engines. First of all, there is no excise tax. I think in Poland it's 13.5% for large engines. Yes, and value-added tax is 20%, not 23%. Value-added tax is also calculated on the car with excise tax. So I suspect it comes out to about 20% cheaper, especially luxury cars like, for example, Mercedes GLS. I don't know the sales statistics, but judging by how many of them are on the roads there, it might be that more GLSs are sold there. As a result, you can get better prices.
And apart from just the price itself, the fact that they're not part of the European Union means there aren't the same restrictions as in Europe. And because of that, their offer is more interesting than what you generally find in the European Union, which is already a bit too eco-friendly.
Well, yes, I actually bought this C-Class Mercedes because I bought it in Ukraine, the Korean version, because the regulations changed in Korea and Mercedes could no longer export it to Korea, nor could they sell it in the European Union, so I went to Ukraine.
And only from there to Poznan, yes. I understand it's good to be in several places at once like that and to observe, compare and take what's best. Exactly, that's good. Safe travels and a smooth road to Poznan. Thank you again for presenting the car. Thank you all as well for watching this spontaneous episode, and see you in the next videos.